All right, good morning, everyone. This is what you get for a voice, I guess, for the rest of the week. I'm doing the best I can here. Um, this is day 68. We're going to first go over a little bit of review. And as far as the e-portfolio that's going to be due at the end of the semester, then we're going to go over the stuff that I asked you to look at yesterday. And if there's any time remaining, we'll start our React Student app as a class. This app will be worked on tomorrow, Thursday, and most of next week as well. Friday of this week will be lab. I'll let you read this stuff that's here. I'm trying to get in to see my doctor again today because this is ridiculous. That my voice is getting worse all the time and not better, but it is what it is. All right. So hopefully you can hear me at least a little bit out there, and I'm going to get going. Now, I'm going to work off of a sheet, just so you know, in a couple minutes. I'm going to be working off a sheet. Then I'm going to be going over stuff. And I want to make sure there are no mistakes on this sheet. All right. And if there are no mistakes on this sheet, I will send it out to you later. All right. First thing I wanted to say, though, before we start, some of you are still struggling with some of the fundamentals that are being taught in this course. I mean, I can appreciate that. You're working hard, but you're just having a problem understanding whatever, be it Flexbox or JavaScript or something else. Now, I found this site, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So let me grab it up here. And it is called thevalleyofcode.com. And the gentleman who created it, his name is Flavio Copes. And I've actually done a series of videos based on some of his work because he puts out a lot of free ebooks. But he's got this thing out here. When you look, notice he starts with HTML and CSS. He even talks about Git, VS Code, GitHub, deployment, and then there's a big thing in here on JavaScript. So if you're still really struggling, this might not be a bad place for you to go take a look. Okay, so that was the first thing. All right, next, again, if you want to build your portfolio at the end of the semester using a drag and drop tool, then I would recommend you use mobirise.com. That's right here. Again, just like before, if you can't read it, it's right there. Just at mobirise.com. You go out there, I would recommend the download for Windows, of course, but it is all drag and drop. Now, I have it on my machine, but I probably have an older version than you will get, but it should still work pretty much the same. I know I've done this for you before. But if you go out there, like I said, it's drag and drop. Why am I telling you this? Well, if we take a look here, this is what I sent you this morning. All right. Oh, wrong one. Sorry about that. Where are you? There it is. All right. So this is due 2 weeks from yesterday, or from today. I'm sorry, 2 weeks from today. This will be your electronic portfolio. I'm not going to read a bit of it to you. You can see the rubric here. Now I'm going to show you how to set this up in Netlify because it's so much easier. But you can use GitHub Pages, and I'll have the steps written down if you want to use those as well. At a minimum, as it says, this site must have this. You can make each one of the things in here their own page, or you can combine everything onto one page. So you'd have a home section, and about you, a resume, a portfolio, and a contact. So you can again make those into 5 pages or into 1 page with 5 sections. All right. Again, here are the criteria. I'm not going to read this either. All right. Now, if you have already taken the C# class, you are to provide some of those programs. That's only a few of you in here. If you have not yet taken the C# class, so if this is your first class, all right, you have to put a bunch of examples out there of work that you've done. All right. And again, like I said, I know I've shown you some of this already, but if you go out to MobiRise and I come in here and I start up and I create a brand new site here. All right. So I'm going to create a new site. Talked a little bit about this before. All right. A you can pick out a theme if you want to, or you can basically do it themeless. Some of these themes are not free. So if you say, oh, wow, that's great, you click on it, they might ask for a charge. Of course, I don't want you to have to pay for anything. So, I wouldn't expect you to. All right. But there's a lot of ways that you can go in here. So this is page templates. And notice there's even more themes. All right. So I'm just going to click here where it says MobiRise 5 right there. All right. And, again, you can put in here whatever you want or need to put in. Probably, I would guess, this portfolio, this one, very well might be free. In fact, I think that's the one that I used. All right, so that would give you a start. So you come in here and first of all, you'd want to replace that with your own picture. All right. So, you can come in here and click on it. And as it says, so if I want to edit the link or if I want to go search, I'll browse my computer here. All right, I'm going to browse the computer. I have no idea. I know there's pictures of me out there on the system or whatever, but let's do this. I know that if I go out to Google Images, so if I go out to images.google.com and I put in me, I know there's at least one picture out there. There's one. And I've used a couple of these already. So let's grab this one here. So I'm going to do a save image as. I'm going to save it right to my desktop. And I'll just call it me.jpg. All right. So then when I come back here into MobiRise, it's like I said, it's almost insanely simple. So I'm going to click on here. All right. And I'm going to say browse computer. There's me.jpg and click OK. That's it. Now that changed it. All right. The picture that you put in should be a professional looking picture. What I've had in the past is people have a picture of them and about 10 friends or whatever. Don't do that. Maybe this isn't the best one to even show you for a professional picture. So then you can come out here. If you don't like the color, you can click here, just change it. So if I wanted it to be black, let's say, or gray, boom, that's all you do, or black if that's better. All right. If I don't want these buttons here, as an example, I can click on a button. All right. And I can tell it to remove it and it's gone. I can remove the other one as well. Again, that's all you have to do with this. All right. So again, you know this, but I would change this, of course. Now, as you can see, that's pretty doggone big. So if I don't like that, I can click on it and I can come in here. Oh, where is it there? And instead of title 1, as an example, I can make it title 2, which shrunk it down a lot. Don't put garbage text in here. This should be real text about you. All right. And it should be something, this is the kind of thing that you can send out to a professional, to somebody who you want to have hire you. All right. Again, I'd want to come in here and change that also to Jeff Scott, maybe web portfolio or something like that. All right. I'm not going to build all of it, but this isn't even bad here. What can I do? All right. Not art design, but I could come in here as an example and I could say programming. All right. So I got web design, I've got programming, and I could put something else in here as well. Okay. And then there's a see my jobs where you can link that kind of thing up. My works, what you should be doing in here as an example, if I were to go out to GitHub right now. So if I go out to github.com, all right, and I don't know, let's see if I can grab one of these here. This is that RPS React that we looked at the other day. All right, and I'm going to grab that and I'm going to download it. All right, and let's extract it. And I'll just call it RPS. And I'm going to bring it up, and you've seen this already. This is what we did last week, but all I want to show you here is I'm going to come up here and say npm, npm start. Lovely. What is it saying here? Package.json. Lovely. Don't think that's going to matter, but let's see. Boy, oh boy. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm not going to be able to use this one, but I'd have to choose something else. The point is this, I don't want to waste your time, but when you come in here, you wouldn't want these pictures. You want pictures of some of your actual projects. All right. So take a screenshot, and then here you can give it a title, but this should be clickable. And this should go to your GitHub page that has the actual code. Now, if you're going to do that, most of us have made our repositories private. You're going to have to make it public if you want somebody else to be able to see it. All right. Hopefully you know that. And if you don't know how to do that, just in case you don't, all right, you go up here and you find settings. Okay. And then down near the very bottom, I'm going to just search for the word private. All right. So this one must be public. So let's type in the word public. There it, let's see. There it is. So it's danger zone. It's down at the very bottom. So if I wanted to make this private, I could just click right there. If it was private and I wanted to make it public, I'd do the same thing. But all I'm saying is you want to make sure that anyone who could conceivably want to take a look at your project would be able to do so. That's all I'm telling you. All right. And, again, just keep going here. There's things in here, of course, you wouldn't put in. One thing that's kind of bad about using MobiRise is, to my knowledge, at the very bottom, I don't think you can get rid of this. Even if you put in your own header, I think that stays in there. All right. But we're going to pretend right now, we're going to pretend that this is my portfolio and I'm done with it, just so you don't have to watch me, continue to do this. So what do I do next? First, I should click on this eye here because that'll show what it's going to look like in a browser, just to double check. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Again, I would make a bunch of changes. You can link all this stuff up if it's not linked up. So the My Works, the About Me, pricing, etc., contacts. All right, so that's actually pretty nice that you get that by default. All right, but what I want to do next is I want to save this. All right, so how do I do that? I'm going to come out before I click publish here, which is what I'm going to do in just a moment. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make a folder, an empty folder, and I'm going to call it JPS portfolio, all in lowercase, no spaces, no nothing. And you can see it's empty. All right. Then all I have to do, all right, then all I have to do is to come back to MobiRise, click on this thing that says publish, and it says, where do you want to publish it to? All right. You'll want to say local drive folder, and then you have to choose it. So browse, find the one on my desktop that says JPS. Thought that was, there it is, JPS portfolio. And there it is. Click select folder and tell it to publish. Boom. That's literally all you have to do. Now, again, you'd have to go in and, of course, make changes in here, make it look like yours, etc. All right. So I've got all that done. What do I do next? Well, the next thing I would want to do would be to come in here. There it is. And I want to go and I want to bring in Git. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do my Git init, my Git add dot, my Git commit. And I'll put JPS partially completed portfolio. All right. So there's everything. Oops. Let's see. I forgot to say minus M, so let me put that in, minus M. So git commit minus M, JPS partially completed portfolio. There's that. So now I need to go over to GitHub. All right, and I need to make sure that I've got something in there called JPS portfolio. Make a new repo with me as the owner, JPS portfolio. All right, it says it's available. I'll make it public and I'll click create repository. All right, now I've got it up here. I've got to go and add that in here. You know this, or you should already. Paste that in, hit enter. I can verify that it's correct with a git remote minus V. Yep, looks good. So I'm going to do my git push minus U origin. And again, I have to say master. Most of you probably say main. All right, that's everything. Good. So if I clear or if I refresh, there it is. Okay, so it's JPS portfolio. All right, now I'm going to go out to Netlify. All right, and I don't want to log in. I don't want to sign up. All right, I think that there's a way that we can come in here, and I forgot what it was. See, request demo, subscribe. There is a way that you can get into this literally through your GitHub. Well, otherwise I'll sign up. There's no cost. There you go. That's what I want. Sign up with GitHub. We've already registered me. Okay, fine. So I've got the steps. I wrote them down in here. This was the Mobilize stuff. If you want, this is a 2023 presentation. It's about 15 minutes long, I believe, on how you can use Mobilize to create a website. All right. These are the steps for GitHub pages if you want to put it in GitHub pages. And these are the steps for Netlify. Okay. So go out to Netlify, yes. Click the new site from Git button in the top middle of the page. Hopefully I can find that. I'll always try signing up with my email there. Let's see if it'll take that. There. All right. I don't want to get acquainted. All right. And yeah, I want to deploy this with GitHub. All right. That's where it is. So you come in here and it says, okay, basically, what do you want in here in GitHub? All right. If I wanted this site, I could put it in. Okay. I can put in literally any site I want. All right. But there's a way that you can come in here. I got it written down on here. If you cannot find what you want at the bottom, choose can't see your repo here, configure Netlify on GitHub link. Yeah. Okay. I want to import an existing project. GitHub. Up or choose a template. I don't know what Netlify drop is. Drag and drop your site here or browse to upload. Okay, let's try it if we see if we can find that. Um, Boy, this is actually so easy and I'm making it so doggone hard. All right. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know if this will work or not. Let's go back to the home. And we've got this JPS portfolio in here. All right. This will upload all the files. Only do this if you trust them. Okay. All right. Publish deploy for, I think it's already out there, but I'm going to check. That isn't it. Open production deploy. There it is. And it's out there on this. Now that's pretty ugly. I think you'd agree. Right now, this is the name of that. All right, which is pretty doggone ugly, but you can go in and change it. At least that's what I'm going to attempt to do right now. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to come over to here and go to options. Oh, where are we? It's not Jeff. there should be an option here, deploy settings, that allows you to go in and change the name. There you go. Under domain management options, edit site name. That's it right now. So I could change this, for example, to JPS portfolio. Now, if somebody else already has one out there by that name, of course I couldn't use it, but we'll see. All right. Now, if I go back again and I refresh, it says site not found. Okay. But I've got to go back because it now has the right name or the name, whatever you want to call it. So let's see. It's real nice. What I'm going to do, because I'm screwing this up so badly, if you remember earlier in the semester, I did a thing where I created a site from scratch and put it out there using Netlify, and I did it with GitHub Pages. So I'm going to put that out there so that everybody, I'll put the links to that so everybody has a copy. In addition, I'm going to double check this and I'm going to send this out to you later this morning. All right, I'll just leave it at that. All right, so again, these were the ones that we just went over. If you need more, I took all these notes, so to speak, from this is a 13-minute long video. The first 6.5 minutes are all you need. This is about a 20-minute long video, and the first 13 minutes are all you need if you need help with that stuff. So you're provided with all that. All right. Next was this. I asked you to take a look at this. And this was the Getting Started with React series. You'll notice if you look over here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections. All right, it's not real small. I believe I already did a series of video presentations on this a couple years ago. I'm going to try to find that as well and send that out to you. All right. So who cares? Why should you care about this? If you have absolutely no clue as to what we're doing, and if when I went over those React applications with you, you were nothing but confused, this would be something you could spend a half an hour and take a look at and at least just get into what it is we're going to be doing. This beginning React to-do list, we made a to-do list in class. This is the one they make. They give you the code. It's not the code I wrote. And here's a working version. So what do you need to do? Get my voice back. And I add that, and there it is. All right. If I want to edit it, get my voice back as soon as possible, and I click save, you can see it's already been changed. All right. If I already did eat as an example, I can click on that and it'll go away. Not only that, what you can do is you can funnel your to-dos. So this is all of them. This is the ones that are active. So you'll notice that first one left. Why? Because it's complete. So if I click delete now it says I have 0 tasks completed. All right. So you can come in here and you can add, you can do whatever you want. The interface is much nicer looking than the one I made for you. But what they explain in here is how to go through all the steps of creating it. They give you all the code and explain all the way along there what's happening and what they're doing. All right. So why am I even telling you this? let's say that you do take the time and you look at this section and you look at this one, and now you get to here. What React is all about is creating components. And what a component is, you kind of look at a component as like being a function. In other words, it's something that's got and it's got an exact job it's supposed to be doing. But they explain in here what components are, how you create them, and they even create components in here. All right. Notice it's just a function. And then you have to come in and you have to add it to your program. All right. So that's telling it to run the to do 3 times. And that gave you this. All right. The events and state, we've talked about state a little bit already, and you've seen that. So, like I said, I think at least the stuff in here is pretty good. It's a really good start. Okay. Now, when we created all the stuff that we've been working on, when we were working on that, everything, when we started any new project, if you remember, we would come in here, we would create a new folder, and then we'd go into that new folder and we would run the command. We would run the command npx create react app dot, and that would create a brand new React app. And it would create it. It would create it right in the folder we were in. All right. Well, one of the things you were asked to look at yesterday, all right, was this article that's out here by Brad Traversy. It's an 18-minute long presentation, and there was a blog with it on this newer way of setting up a React project called Vite. Vite. I'm not going to go and do any of this. Now, for what we are doing, there's almost no difference between using Create React App and using Vite. There's almost no difference. But the reason that you'd want to use Vite is internally, there's less work that the computer has to do. When you make changes to a site, those changes come up faster, and what you end up getting created on your screen, all the folders, etc. When you create a project, it's a little less when you use Vite. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using Create React App. All right. Totally fine to use it. All right. But Mr. Gudmested and Mr. Gegelman got a hold of me and said, hey, you should be telling the students that, what they should be using is Vite. So this is the article that goes along with that video. Some people like to watch videos. Some people like to read articles. All right. You can see it's fairly up to date. It's March of 2023, but they mention, all right, it says this is how Create React works. You don't have to worry about even understanding it, but they're just showing you that. And then they show you how Vite works. And again, these are all internal things. But the idea is over time, Vite is supposed to be replacing Create React App as the way to go in and create a new project. All right. So I believe the reason for saying that is those of you who are taking the AWD1111 class, all right, in spring, you will be using Vite to create your React projects. You won't be using Create React App. All right. Like I said, it explains it, it shows you how to use it, etc., and all the other stuff in there. Now, what I was told by Mr. Gegelman and Mr. Gudmested was, just tell the students they should be using Vite for everything. I have no problem with that. All right. But with that said, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to start creating a project with you, but I'm going to use NPX because you've already seen that. So with what we've done in here, I've done this kind of quickly, but we went over Mobilize. We talked about Netlify. I didn't talk about GitHub Pages, but I showed you the links to all those articles. We talked a little bit about this React getting started thing and talked about this Vite thing. All right, yeah, I guess there's time remaining. So we're going to create a React student app as a class right now. What I am going to ask is, as we do this, you code along with me. You are going to be responsible for turning this in at the end of the semester. I am not going to be saving this as a GitHub repository. The idea, again, is that what you will be doing is this is, Mr. Gudmested calls this a code along exercise. And again, it will be due the 17th, 12 days from now. We're going to, all the code we have to put in, we're going to do all of it together. We're going to do part 1 today. We're going to do part 2 tomorrow. We're going to do part 3 on Thursday. Then next week, there's a part 4 and there's a part 5. And finally, when we're done, you're going to learn yet another way to deploy. I think you can deploy these with Netlify, but I'm not sure. We're going to use something else. But everything that we do, you're going to get all the code. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here starting right now, and I'm going to create a new application right here. So I'd like you to be doing the same. I'm going to right mouse click, choose a new folder, and I'm going to call this new folder React Student App. All right, React Student App, because it's going to have information in it about students. All right, so there that is. Okay, I'm going to open up that folder. I am going to right mouse click. In fact, I don't even have to do it like this. Let's see. Yeah. And I'll go to Git Bash here. And as we have been doing, rather than using Vite, because we have been using Create React App, I'm going to say npx create React app dot, which should create a project for us right in this folder. Okay. That'll take anywhere from 30 seconds to maybe 2 minutes, but it'll probably be closer to 30 seconds, hopefully. All right, so as we get our happy hacking, it's ready to go. There you go. All right, so I can exit out of here now, and I can bring my folder up inside of Visual Studio Code. And I want to also do a view terminal here and bring up a terminal. Now, I'm not going to run this, but if I did right now, if I said npm start, I get that twirling picture of the React logo and basically nothing else. All right. But it has come in and it has added some stuff in here for us. Okay. Now, what we have done so far in the past is we've come up here and we've usually gone into like app.js and we started writing something, and we're going to do that. But what we want to do is we want to bring in some stuff into the program that we're going to be able to use. We want to do some installs. We want to install a couple things in here. All right. One thing we want to install is Bootstrap. You don't get Bootstrap out of the box in here. You have to install it. But just so you see this, if I do go out to npm.js.org, the node package manager, and I type in here Bootstrap, there it is. And it's even got 5.3.2, which I believe is the latest and greatest version. Not only is there a Bootstrap, there is a React Bootstrap. All right, so notice it says Bootstrap 5 components built with React. All right, we're just going to use the regular Bootstrap one. And to do that, if I do click on this, it tells me what I have to do. npm I Bootstrap. I means install. You can put in the whole word install, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to come back into here where I've been working. All right. And I'm going to right mouse click and just add this. And I forgot, somehow lost the N. So I'm going to say here, npm I Bootstrap. When I get done and I hit enter, you're going to see a bunch of stuff whirling around, etc. But before I hit enter, I want to show you something, and that is this. All right. When you start looking at all the stuff that's over here, all right, we will come in later and we will remove some of the stuff as we've been doing. But what I want to show you is here, package.json. This has got everything that we've loaded in here. They're called dependencies. And what you'll notice when you look in here, we do not have anything in here called Bootstrap as of right now. All right. And I just put in npm I Bootstrap and I'm going to hit enter. Don't know if it took that or not. So there we go. That was it. Didn't take very long. All right. But if I go back to my package.json, there's Bootstrap. So now I've got all the Bootstrap features and functionality available to me. All right. We're going to create a bunch of students. Each student will have his or her own ID number. Now, we're not going to just say student one has got an ID of one, student two with an ID of two, etc. We're going to have the computer, basically the system, create numbers for us. And they'll be big numbers that'll have both digits and letters in them. To do that, I'm going to go and install another package. And it's called Nano ID. Okay. I don't expect you to understand what this means. All right, I really don't. But if I go back here again, and now I search for Nano ID, and I search for that, there it is. It says it's a unique string ID generator. So I can click on this. I've already put npm I nano ID, but I could copy it in there if I wanted, etc. Again, when you see something that's been downloaded 35 million times, you can pretty much be assured that it works and it must be pretty doggone good. All right. So going back to here, there's my npm I nano ID, and I'm going to hit enter again. And now it's going to bring that in. Okay. And just like before, if I go back to my package.json, there's nano ID. So these are the two things that I have added as dependencies to my program that previously were not available to me. All right. Okay. So now they are. So I'm going to clear this down here and go back up here. So let me make this smaller. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to come up here and I am going to remove those things that we talked about before that we don't need. So we don't need an app test.js. We don't need a logo.svg. We don't need a report web vitals. We don't need a setup test. We don't need any of those four things. There might even be more, but I think for now, at least, that's all we don't need. Those four things. So I've highlighted all four. I'm going to right mouse click and choose delete. And it comes back and says, are you sure you want to? Yes. So move these to the recycle bin. So they're gone. Now, it's going to give me errors if I run it right now, because let's start here with index.js. Notice import report web vitals. We don't have that anymore. So I'm going to remove that line. Down on the bottom here, it talks more about report web vitals. So I'm going to remove that. That's a start. So let me do a file, save all, and now I can close this. And let me bring up app.js. We don't have a logo anymore. So I'm going to get rid of that. All right. And you've seen me do this before. I'm going to gut this thing out here. This is our display, and I'm just going to change it to hello. Okay, that's it. And there's a reason I'm doing it. There's a reason I'm doing it like this, and you'll see why in just a second. All right. So file, save all. Now, if I go into my app.css, remember what's in here. This stuff is all for the logo, or most of it is. Okay, I'm going to remove this text align center thing. I'm going to remove the logo. I'm going to remove this media thing that makes the logo go. So all that stuff. I'm removing all that junk that's in there. That's gone. And these keyframes, this is all stuff that's in there too. I don't want any of that. All right. I've got app link and app header in here. I'm going to just remove all of them. Every bit. All right. So it's totally gone now. Why did I do that? I want to show you right now. If we go back to app.js, before I do, I want to save this. Notice one of the things we're bringing in now is an empty CSS file. That's okay. All right. Now, if I come down here and I run this, remember, by saying npm start. I don't think I have any errors. If I do, you'll see it right with me. But it should say hello. And there it is. Now, previously when we did this, we had that text align center, so it was right here. I wanted to remove that, and there was a reason I wanted to remove that. And I want to show you that reason right now. All right. So I'm going to come into here. All right. And in my app.js file, which is where I am right now. Okay. Underneath this import, in fact, above this, I'm going to add another line. And this line is going to say import bootstrap dist, means the distributed version, CSS bootstrap.min.css. What did that do? Well, earlier, down here, if you remember down there, we installed Bootstrap. Now we're bringing it into our application. All right. So if I save this and I go back and I run it again, all right, in fact, I don't even have to run it, I don't think. Let's see. Oh, I guess I do. So let's run it. So npm start. This is not going to be a gee whiz type of thing, but I'm trying to show you something. All right. It's hard to tell, but it did move it over a little because we have some Bootstrap in there. All right. So we have now installed Bootstrap. We've installed Nano ID, and we brought them both, or we brought that one into our program. All right. Now, why? Who cares? I mean, what is this? What are we doing here? We're creating a React application. In this React application, and you're going to see this after we have the break, but what you're going to be doing in there basically is we're going to be creating our own data to fill that application. All right. And I'm going to show you how you can do it, how you can basically create the same kind of data that I'm creating. All right. If you don't want to, it's okay, because what I'll do is I'll send you what I have a little bit later today, but I'd like you to at least try to go through this. So what we're going to create is what's called seed data, SEED. Why am I telling you this? Because when you work with applications, be they a database application, or in this case, so far at least, a non-database application, we want to provide some initial data, and that's called seeding. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do this by using a free product that's online that's called Mockaroo, which we'll do after the break. And after we do that, we're going to add some stuff, and and we're going to not only are we going to add some stuff to it, all right, we're going to end up using that array.map function that we talked about in class a little bit earlier. We'll work with images, we'll bring in that nano ID. We're going to do all this stuff. So far we've come in, we created our folder, we did the npx create react app, we installed Bootstrap, we installed nano ID, we went into app.js and we imported Bootstrap into our program. All right. And let's try one last thing. Okay. And that is this. Now we're going to take a break. I'm going to come back here, and where we've got this, the word hello in there. Again, you've seen this before, I know. I'm going to make this an H1 tag. All right. So I'm going to put that hello in an H1 tag like that. And I'm going to save this. All right. And I'm going to go back and look at our program. Okay. And really about the only thing that looks different right now is the fact that it's bolded. All right. But we have something in there. All right. If we come into this and I right mouse click and I choose inspect, it's going to show us the code that's in here. All right. No biggie. But when you start looking through this, when we start to look through the code that's in here, all right, and we start to go through everything that's in here, what you're going to see sooner or later when we start to go through all this stuff is that we're going to have Bootstrap in there. All right, so we've got a style. This is the one that we get in that index.css file. Okay, we've got another style. Okay, and we've got a third style. Well, if you start going through this and you look at it, that is going to be the Bootstrap that we brought in. So we have brought Bootstrap into our program. All right. All right. That's just a start. It's 9 o'clock. So I'm going to take 10 minutes. So please come back at 9:10 and we're going to just continue on with this. and it's 9:10, so I'm going to continue on. Right before the break, or right as we started the break, I sent all of you a folder with 10 images in it. You can use those. That's what I'm going to be using in here. All right. And if you want to go and unzip that, you can use them as well. It's going to put them into a folder called images. They're right here, just so you see them. So these are going to be our 10 students. Okay. They're all the same size and everything, so it should look pretty nice when we do this. Now, I'm going to grab that images folder right here, and I'm going to open up my project, my React Student app, and I'm going to open up public, and I'm going to literally just drag that image folder in there. So my images are now in my public folder. And if you say, why did you do that? Hopefully it'll become apparent in about 10 or 15 minutes. All right. Now, if either you don't want to do that or didn't do it or have a problem opening it or whatever, what's going to happen is when we build this, one of the biggest things you're going to see on the screen for each student is going to be their picture. And that's what these images represent. All right. Okay. So before we go back into our program, which we're going to do in just a minute, but before we go back into our program here, we're going to go out to the internet and we're going to go out to what's called mockaroo.com. So let me spell it out for you so you can see it. I believe this is the right spelling. Let me put it in to make sure. That is it. All right, so let me bring it back up again so you can see it. So please go out to mockaroo.com. Now it's about as big as I can make it. All right, this is going to create most of our seed data for us. We're going to have to make some modifications and the like, but this is what we're going to do next. All right, so under mockaroo.com, okay, what we care about here are just 3 fields: first name, last name, and email. That's all we care about. I don't want their ID, so I'm going to click this X so that goes away. I don't want gender, so I'm going to click that X so it goes away. I don't want IP address, so I'm going to click that X so it goes away. All right. Now, by default, it's going to try to create 1,000 students for me. I don't want that. I only want 10. So I'm going to change that number right there that says 1,000. I'm going to change it to 10. I'm not done yet. But then they talk about the format here. The format right there by default is CSV, which means it's a comma separated variable file. I don't want that, so I want you to click the down arrow here and choose JSON, just like that. All right. And then once you do that, you get these 2 check boxes. One says array. I want you to leave that checked. The other one says include null values. I don't want that one to be checked. So this is what your screen should look like. When you go out to mockaroo.com, okay, we'll have 10 first names, 10 last names, 10 emails. We remove the ID and the IP address and whatever else was there. We set our rows to 10. We set our format to JSON. We made sure array was checked, and we made sure include null values was not checked. All right. So the next step is to go down to the bottom of your screen, and where it's got the word preview, it looks like a button there. Just click it. And then there's your 10 students. So I'm going to highlight all of these, get to the clipboard, and I'm going to put that into my program. Now we're going to make changes to this eventually. You want to put it above the return statement, but after where it says function app. So right here, I'm going to hit enter a couple times and paste this in. All right. That's going to be some of our seed data. So if you look here, I want you to understand something. It may not be that easy at first look to understand it. All right. The first thing is you see there's a bracket here and there's a bracket on the end. All right. Brackets mean array. This is an array. Everything that's in here is inside of curly braces. So what this actually this is an array of JSON, JavaScript object notation, JSON objects. That's what this is. It is an array of JSON objects. It's not complete yet, and I'm going to do a little bit of work on it because I don't like the way that it looks right now. You can do what I do or not do it. It doesn't really matter. All right. Now, the first thing I want to do is I don't like this. So I'm going to change this to first name like that, because normally that's the way you would specify it. All right. Now, there is a way to do this where I think if you highlight it here, see how it's highlighting all of them? Well, I'm going to change it back. All right. I think if I take my mouse, hold down on the control key, and just arrow over all of that. Try it again. No, maybe it's shift. It is. So if I shift, I held on to my shift and I'm hitting my right arrow key. Who cares? Well, watch what happens. First name. Now what that was supposed to do was supposed to change all of them. And of course it did not. So I'll do it manually. That's fine. Would we leave it in as first underscore name? The answer is yes. All right. But since this is eventually going to be working with a database by the time we get done, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it like this. So we've changed first name. And as you might guess, I want to change last name so it looks like this. So I'm going to go and copy those over and change those 10. Like I said, there's a bunch of shortcuts you can use with Visual Studio Code, and I wish I knew them better than I do, which is not very well at all. All right, so now I've got my names in there. Okay. What I want to do is I want to give each one of my students their own ID number. All right, I'm going to do that in a minute because I'm a little quirky the way I do this stuff, but I want to do it like this. So I'm going to move that over and I'm going to hit enter on each one of these because I want them to be on their own line. You don't have to do that. It means it does nothing to the program, good or bad. But again, I have an array here of, it's an array of 10 student objects. There are 10 student objects that are JSON. And as of right now, okay, the only thing that these objects have in them is a first name, a last name, and an email. Okay. We want each one to have an ID as well. How do we do that? Two things we have to do. First, we have to go back up to the top of our program here. And here we imported Bootstrap. Now we're going to import Nano ID. Now, when you do this, the syntax or the way we key this in is going to be a little different than the one above it. And I've had people ask me in the past, why, when you work with React, why do you sometimes do things one way and do things another way other times? It's not that I do it, it's the way the language does it. All right. So put in here import, and inside of curly braces, Nano ID from Nano ID. And again, why they do it like that, I don't really know, but that's how they do it. All right. Now, we want the system to generate an ID for each one of these students. So after this, so I'm taking for granted, everybody put this in. You notice right now it's gray. And if I put my mouse over it, it says, hey, you declared this, but you're never using it. So let's use it right now. We're going to put a new first field in for each one of our students. And we're going to put it in like this: ID colon nano ID paren, comma. So you want to do this at the top for each one of the students. Okay. What that's going to do is it's going to call the nano ID function. And what that function is going to create, just so you know, if you care, maybe you don't, it's going to create something that's called a GUID. All right, which means it's a global, I don't remember what the U stands for, but it's a global identifier. All right. And that's what we're creating with this. Are there other ways this could be done? Certainly. Okay. Now, we're not done, but we're getting there. So next, all right, next, what I would like you to do is to come in and we're going to add an image. All right. Now, if you went and added that public folder, or I'm sorry, if you went and added that images folder I sent you to the public folder, all right, when we eventually run this, you're going to get your pictures. If you didn't, you won't get your pictures. Okay. Now, why did we put this in the public folder? Because since it's in the public folder, so again, if you look in here, if I go into public, there's my images. There they are. All right. By putting them in the public folder like that, now I'm going to go down and I'm going to add a new last field. So I need a comma after this. And now I'm going to say images slash student1.jpg. All right. And I'm going to do this all the way down. The next one will be student 2, then student 3, then student 4, etc. And make sure you put a comma after you're at the end of your email there. So I'm going to do this and I'm just going to copy it down. Then I'm manually going to go in and change all those. All right. So those are done, but I got to change the names. Only one. Otherwise, they're all going to be the same name. They'll be the same image. So student 1, student 2, student 3. You get the picture. Oops. All right. So I've got all that information in. That is going to be all of my student information, as far as I remember. I don't think there's anything else we're going to have to put in there for the students. That again is our seed data. All right. So I'm going to do a file, save all. I'm going to close that public folder because I don't need it open. Now I'm going to go back up to the top of my program here. Don't need that open anymore. All right. So far, I've imported Bootstrap and I've imported Nano ID. All right. Now, if you remember, what we've been doing in most of our React programs is we said import React, and sometimes we said comma, use state from React, right? And all that is it's bringing in everything in the React package. We don't have to install it. The only things that you have to install are things in that NPM, the Node Package Manager. React is not in there exactly. So this is what we've done so far. All right. Now what we're going to do for the rest of the period here pretty much is write code quite a bit. I'm only going to go till 10 o'clock because, I tried talking to my doctor this morning and he said, you shouldn't be talking, period. And I said, well, it's the end of the semester. I don't have a choice. And then he said, well, talk for a couple hours and then try to rest for a couple hours so you can talk for a couple hours again. So that's what I'm doing. And that's why I said we'll only go till about 10 o'clock each day. All right. Okay. All right. So this, like I said, that's going to be our seed date. I can even put a comment there. You don't have to, but I'm going to put a comment there that says seed data because that's what it is. All right. Right up above the seed data, I'm going to start writing some code. All right. Eventually, what I want this to do is I want this to be able to hold all 10 of my students. And I want to be able to eventually, we're going to get into this in the coming days, be able to add a new student, modify an existing student, or delete an existing student. That's what we're going to be doing with this project. So this is going to represent all of the students. All right. This is the way that we'll be able to set that variable. And right now, we could have done this. I'm just making it null, which means it's totally empty. We could have done that as well, which means that it's an empty array, but I'm just going to make it null. There's absolutely nothing in there because we haven't created anything yet. All right. All right. Now, how do we do that? All right. I mean, how are we going to fill up? Hopefully you understand this, all students, is all these 10 students right here. All right. So when we go and set our students, we want it to go in there and grab that seed data. That's what we're going to want to have happen. And hopefully it will. Now I'm noticing here, I'm getting an error and I don't know what that is, but hopefully we'll be able to flush that out fairly quickly. All right. So we need to call the set all students method. We need to call the method that's called set all students. And we need to pass in this array to it, this student array. All right. Now, one thing we didn't do here is we didn't right here. I think this is why I'm getting the error too. Right now, this is telling the system that we have, it's telling it that we have an array of JSON objects, but we didn't give it a name. So let's give it a name up here. All right. So let's say const students equal and hit enter again. All right, it did still didn't fix the error, but the point is now when we want to use the array totally, students is basically holding the value that's in the array that we are going to end up using in just a bit. All right. Okay. So we need to call set all students method. We need to call this and we need to pass this into it. And if that confuses you, all right, imagine that this thing right here said set gross pay, something like that. And to set the gross pay, we needed somebody's hours worked and hourly rate. All right. So if we called set gross pay, we'd have to pass in hours worked and hourly rate. We're going to call set all students, but we're going to pass into that students. All right. And we're going to do that right now. All right. So let's see. And we're going to actually end up calling it, I believe at least, from inside of here. All right. This is our display area, if you remember. I said this to you the other day. This is basically our program logic area up here. And this is our display area that's down here. All right. So right now we've got this div. We gave it a class name of app. But if you remember this app that's right here, that app, all right, that was what was in here. But we got rid of that. So we can call it whatever we want. We can call it app. I mean, it's not a problem. All right, we can call it app. All right, but a frequently used name here is this is going to be a container. That's also a name that Bootstrap uses. So I'm going to say their div class name equals container. All right. So what we want to do, hopefully this is going to work, and we're going to see whether or not it does. All right, is we're going to come in and we're going to add some more code. All right. Sorry, I got a cough. I'm sorry. So again, we need to call the set all students method, and we need to pass into that method the students array. And ideally, what that is going to do, what that is going to do is it is going to populate, it is going to populate our array with those students. Now, when we first run the program, there'll be nothing there. They won't show, but we'll have a button that if you click the button, it'll add those students. All right. So if it's empty and you click the button, it'll add all students for us. Okay. And I'm going to show you that. I'm going to put the code in here for it right now. I'm going to remove this. We don't need something that says hello. Now I'm going to put some code in here that probably will make almost no sense to you. All right. And that's okay. All right. But I'll explain every bit of it after we key this in. I'm going to put this over multiple lines so I can explain each line one at a time. Let's move this as well. There we go. See, I'm trying to line this up so when I start to explain it, hopefully it'll make a little bit of sense. And this is in the wrong place, so I'll fix all that in a second. All right. All right. Now it's giving me errors, so we're going to have to fix this. Okay. It says here identifier expected. All right. And I'm not sure why, so we'll take a look at that in just a second, but I want to explain what's going on here. If we get nothing else done for the rest of the period, I want you to at least to be able to start to understand this. All right. In English, what this means is if we don't have any students, not all students means that we have no students. If we have no students, let us create a button, and that button will have bootstrap. It should be button class. It should be a large button, and it should be green, which is success. All right. When we click that button, we want you to call set all students, which is going to go in and populate. All right. It's going to go in and it's going to populate this. All right. Using this. Now I want to say that again because you might find that unbelievably confusing. You might find everything we've done so far confusing. I can understand that. I can appreciate that. All right. So as you look at this, this is saying if we don't have any students currently, show this button right here. The button will say on it, save students. All right. That's what the button will say. Okay. It'll be green and it'll be a large button. When we click it, we want you to set or call that method. We want you to set all the students. All right. And we want you to pass into that the student array. And that's why I said that may make almost no sense. All right. But all we want to have happen is this. When we start to run the program, we want the screen to basically be empty. When we, other than it'll have this button in here that says save students. When we click that button, we'll want all of the students that are currently in our array to show. All right. And we will want all of that stuff in there to show whether, but if we remove a student from students, we don't want them to show. If we add more students, we want them to show. All right. I want to find out what this error is right here. All right, because that may be causing this or it may not. No. Okay, so it's not. And it looks like I don't have an error, but there is still one here where it says identifier expected. I'm trying to figure out what the problem with that is. Students. Oh, button, March, button success, on click equals. We are about 50% done with lesson one, but we can't go on because I've got to figure out what that error is. All right. And I'm not sure right now what the error is. So I'm going to debug it, but rather than you watch me fumble around and debug it, I'm going to stop lecturing right now and we'll pick it up right here tomorrow. The second part of this isn't as long as this first part is. So hopefully we'll be able to finish the second half of part one and jump right into part two and see how much of that we can get done. All right. Hopefully you have all this. So again, very quickly, this is what we've done so far. We did an NPM-I for Bootstrap. We did an NPM-I for Nano ID. We brought both of those into our program. We also brought in React and UseState into our program. We're currently importing an empty file. We'll add stuff to it later. All right. In our app, in this area right here, in our code area here, all right, this is a variable. This is how we set that variable. So this is a state variable called all students. The way that variable gets set is via a call to set all students. We're starting it out by setting it equal to nothing. All right. We went into makaroo.com and on using what was there, it allowed us to grab this for each one of our students. So each student had a first name, a last name, and an email. All right. Then we added a Nano ID so that each student has his or her own ID number, and each student will have his or her own image. All right. Then what I tried to do right here and unsuccessfully did was to come in here and put a button on the screen. It's not showing right now. I mean, if I come in here and do a file, save all right, and it's recompiling here, it's now got two errors. And one of them is, I don't know why, but it's expecting an N for that, but I'm not giving it one. So if I look in here, it says one of your dependencies is importing Babel without declaring it in a dependency. And it's warning me that you're doing something that may cause the system to break at any time. Well, of course, we don't want that. All right, but I'm not sure what that problem is. Okay. What we will be able to do, hopefully by the end of the period tomorrow, is we'll have this working, and then we will add the functionality. The first one we're going to add in here is the ability to add a new student. All right. And we will put up, basically, we'll create a little form where we will put in like first name, last name, all right, an email, okay, and an image. We will never have to add this for any student. That'll be added for him or her automatically. All right. That's where we will go to tomorrow. All right. So hopefully by the end of the period tomorrow, that's what we're going to have done. All right. So cutting it a little short, 15 minutes shorter than I would have otherwise, but I don't want to go on as long as I have an error in here because it's not going to do anything. So I will see you tomorrow at 8:05. Have a good rest of the day.